All right, let's jump into another Minecraft deep dive. This time, it's all about Snapshot 24 Daily 4044 for the upcoming 1.2 1.4 update. We're going through Mojang's patch notes, which, as always, are super detailed. We'll be covering all the cool new stuff coming to the Pale Garden, plus some technical changes that modders out there will want to know about.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. I think one of the most interesting things is how they've taken the winter drop experiment and made it a full feature. It really shows how Mojang takes community feedback to heart. They test things out, see what works, and then implement it in a way that makes sense for everyone.
Absolutely. And speaking of winter drop, let's talk about what that means for players. First up, we've got these eye blossoms, and I have to say, they're pretty captivating. These flowers, they open and close with the day-night cycle, and get this, at night, they have these glowing eyes. Glowing eyes.
It's wild. And they actually seem to communicate with each other, too. If you plant a bunch together, they'll all synchronize their opening and closing like some kind of pulsating light show.
That's incredible. I can only imagine what players will do with that.
Oh, absolutely. The design possibilities are endless.
And you could even use bone meal on pale garden grass to help them grow. But here's the catch. Bees are drawn to them, but if they try to collect pollen, they get poisoned.
Right, so it creates this interesting dilemma. Do you risk letting your bees near these tempting but poisonous flowers? It adds this extra layer of strategy to beekeeping in the Pale Garden.
Like a beautiful trap. And we can't forget suspicious stew. You can brew it with eye blossoms. But be careful. Depending on which variant you use, you might end up with some unwanted side effects like blindness or nausea.
Oh, yeah, I can see the prank videos coming already.
Yeah.
But seriously, it opens up a whole new world of potion brewing. Players are going to have a lot of fun experimenting with that.
Totally. Now, you might be wondering, how do you get these eye blossoms? Well, when you attack a creaking, now we'll talk more about those spooky mobs later, its heart drips these resin clumps. And this resin is surprisingly useful.
Yeah, you can use it for armor trimming. It's like giving your armor a little bit of personality.
Yeah.
You can really customize your look.
I love that, making your character truly unique.
Exactly. And it's not just for looks. You can also craft the resin into blocks, bricks, slabs, stairs, all kinds of stuff.
Whole new building material.
Exactly. And the best part is you can find these resin clumps in woodland mansions, so there's another reason to explore those.
Or you can buy them from wandering traders.
Right. So no matter what your playstyle is, you've got options to get your hands on this stuff.
Love that.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to some more general changes in the snapshot. First off, we've got a visually updated panorama. It's a subtle change, but it freshens things up a bit.
Yeah, it's like they're setting the mood for all the new stuff.
Exactly. Then there's a little tweak to tool efficiency. Turns out, using a sword to break moss carpet isn't the best way to do it anymore. I'll admit I've been guilty of that myself.
Yeah, well, now it encourages you to use the right tool for the job.
It makes you think a bit more strategically. And speaking of tools, there's a pretty significant change to how some blocks drop items.
Yeah, before you could accidentally destroy a block if you didn't have the right tool equipped and you'd get nothing. Like imagine trying to mine a bell with your bare hands.
Oh, I've done that more times than I care to admit, especially early in the game.
Frustrating, right? Well, now any block that's supposed to drop something when its support is broken will also drop it when mined with any tool. So even if you punch a bell, it'll still drop as an item. This goes for lanterns, pressure plates, brewing stands, a bunch of stuff.
That's a huge quality of life improvement, especially for new players.
For sure. It takes away a lot of the potential frustration.
All right, let's venture into the Pale Guardian itself now. One of the things that really sets this biome apart is the silence. There's no music here at all.
Yeah, it creates this really unsettling atmosphere. You're just surrounded by the sounds of nature, and it makes it feel even more mysterious.
Like the world is holding its breath. And then there's the creaking heart. You can get it by carefully mining it with a Silk Touch tool. It's really important for interacting with the creaking mob, but we'll talk more about that later.
And it drops a good amount of experience when you break it, so it's a nice reward for exploring the Pale Garden.
Oh, and you might even find them hidden within the pale oak trees, adding a bit of mystery to the exploration.
The trees themselves are pretty amazing, too. You've got leaf particles drifting down, hanging moss, patches of moss on the ground. They really capture that eerie vibe.
Like something out of a fairy tale.
Yeah, but a slightly creepy fairy tale.
Exactly. And if you want to grow your own pale oak trees, You can actually get saplings from wandering traders.
So you can bring that spooky atmosphere back home with you.
Love it. And we can't forget about the pale moss blocks and pale hanging moss. They add even more texture to the environment.
And they have some interesting properties, too. They break instantly when mined, so landscaping is super quick.
Yeah.
And for the pale hanging moss, you'll need shears or a silk touch tool to collect it.
It's like they've thought of everything.
They really have. Each element of the pale garden feels distinct and well thought out.
Okay, are you ready to talk about the creaking mob itself?
Oh, absolutely. This is where things get interesting.
Be warned, though, it's no pushover. It has a pretty strong melee attack, so you'll want to be prepared for a fight.
But what's really fascinating is how illagers react to them. You know how illagers are usually the big bad guys?
Yeah.
Well, they're actually terrified of creakings and they'll run away from them.
Oh, wow, that's a cool twist. It's like they're scared of their own shadows.
Exactly. It kind of flips the script on the whole enemy dynamic.
So you could use a creaking to clear out an illager outpost.
Oh, for sure. The possibilities are endless.
And speaking of possibilities, let's talk about the creaking heart. It's not just a crafting ingredient, it's actually the key to controlling the creaking itself. If the heart is destroyed, the creaking disappears.
Oh, wow, really?
And if you move the heart, the creaking teleports to its new location.
That's incredible. So you can basically control where it goes.
Pretty much. It's like having a spooky puppet.
That's awesome.
And the creaking has a bunch of other interesting behaviors too. It reacts to damage in a unique way. It ignores hazards like cacti and powder snow, and it's even fire resistant.
Wow, so they're tough.
They are. It's clear that Mojang put a lot of thought into making them more than just a mindless mob.
Definitely. They've got personality, and they're definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Okay, before we get too carried away with the spooky stuff, let's touch on some of the technical changes in this snapshot. Now, these might not be as flashy as new mobs or biomes, but they're super important for modders and map makers.
Yeah, these are the changes that lay the foundation for all the cool custom content that people create.
Exactly. So we've got updates to data pack and resource pack versions.
Right, so creators will need to update their work to be compatible with the new format.
It's a behind-the-scenes change, but it's crucial for keeping the modding community running smoothly.
Absolutely. And one of the most interesting technical updates is the duration field they added to the trail particle system. This gives modders a lot more control over particle effects.
So we could see spells with trailing sparks, custom explosions, that kind of thing.
Exactly. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like giving modders a whole new set of tools to work with.
And then there's the simple block feature. It now has a schedule tick option.
Now, I'm not a modder, so can you break that down for me?
Sure. Basically, it helps with performance optimization. It lets modders control which blocks need to be updated every game tick, so it prevents unnecessary calculations and makes things run smoother.
Ah, so it's all about making sure the game doesn't lag, even with tons of mods installed.
Exactly. It's a huge deal for modders who are creating complex stuff.
Makes sense. And for those who love customizing their biomes, there's a new format for biome music using weighted lists.
This gives creators a lot more control over the soundtrack of their worlds.
So you could have a spooky cave with creepy music, or a peaceful forest with calming melodies.
Exactly. It's all about creating the right atmosphere.
I love it. And speaking of creating a safe atmosphere, there's a new security feature for item blocks.
This is really important. It prevents potentially harmful code from being injected into custom items.
So it's like a safety net for players who are using mods.
Exactly. It helps ensure that everyone has a safe and fun experience.
Well, that's good to hear. All right, let's shift gears and talk about command updates. This is stuff that's especially relevant for advanced players and map makers.
One of the big changes is to the attribute command. There's a new subcommand that lets you reset the base value of an attribute to its default for a specific entity.
So you could change the strength or speed of a mob without having to rewrite its code.
Exactly. It gives map makers a lot more control over how creatures behave.
That's awesome. And for the TNT enthusiasts out there, there's a new explosion speed factor field for TNT minecart data.
This controls how much extra damage the explosion does based on the minecart's speed.
I can already see the crazy contraptions people are going to build with this.
Oh yeah, it's going to be wild. And for those who love customizing text, there's a new shadow color style field for text components.
So now you can have text with colored shadows.
Exactly. It's a small change, but it adds a lot of visual flair.
I like it. It's all about the details, right?
Definitely.
Okay, we can't forget about the bug fixes. Even though they might not be as exciting as new features, they're super important for a smooth gameplay experience.
Absolutely. Mojang has been hard at work squashing bugs, and it
Can
shows.
you give us some examples?
Sure. One of the bugs they fixed was MC12829, which caused players to slow down when flying through climbable blocks in creative mode.
Oh, I've encountered that one before. It was so annoying.
Yeah, well, it's fixed now so you can fly freely.
That's great news. What else?
They also fixed MC71290, which caused the hat layer of a player's skin to sometimes disappear from the tab list. It was a minor bug, but it's nice to see them paying attention to those details.
Agreed. It's those little things that make a big difference.
And they also fixed MC277072, which prevented players from using bone meal on pale moss carpets in certain situations. It was a bit of a consistency issue, but it's fixed now.
Awesome. It's clear that Mojang is really dedicated to making sure the game is as polished as possible.
Absolutely. They're always listening to feedback and working to improve the player experience.
All right, well, I think that covers pretty much everything for this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah, we've gone through a lot.
But there's still more to come, so be sure to join us for part 2, where we'll dive even deeper into the implications of these changes and what they might mean for the future of Minecraft.
It's going to be a good one. Welcome back to our deep dive. You know, looking at these patch notes, it really strikes me how Mojang manages to bring in all this cool new stuff while also making the core game even better.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, right? You want to innovate and keep things fresh, but you also don't want to break what's already working.
Exactly. And they do a great job of it.
For sure. Like on one hand, you've got these eye blossoms with their glowing eyes and the potential for some really cool potion brewing. I'm super curious to see what kind of concoctions players will come up with using them.
Yeah. Imagine you stumble upon a hidden garden at night, and it's all lit up by these eye blossoms, all synchronized and glowing. It would be an incredible sight. And think about how players will use them in their builds, designing gardens that transform from day to night.
It's like they're giving players living building blocks, things that change and react to the world around them.
Exactly. It adds a whole other dimension to building.
And while we're talking about subtle but impactful changes, we have to mention the required tools for drops update.
Oh yeah, that's a great example of Mojang listening to the community and making the game more enjoyable for everyone.
Totally. It might seem like a small thing, but it can make a big difference, especially for new players.
Right. Imagine you're just starting out, you're all excited to mine your first bell, and then you realize you don't get anything because you used the wrong tool.
Oof. Yeah, I remember those days.
It's frustrating, but now that frustration is gone, which is awesome.
It just makes the game more accessible and less punishing, which is great.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's shift back to the Pale Garden itself. What were some of your favorite things about it?
Oh man, the silence. Gotta be the silence. It's so effective at creating this unsettling atmosphere,
Yeah.
you know? You're just surrounded by the sounds of nature, no music, just the wind, the leaves rustling, maybe a creak here and there.
It's like the biome is holding its breath.
Yes, exactly. It really adds to the sense of mystery.
And then you've got those pale oak trees. They're visually stunning.
Yeah, they're just so detailed with the hanging moss and the leaf particles. It really feels like you're in a different world.
And the fact that you might find creaking hearts hidden within them just adds to the creepiness.
Oh, for sure. It's like a little reward for exploring, but also a little bit scary.
A perfect blend of spooky and intriguing.
Exactly. And I love how they incorporated all these details to create such a cohesive experience.
Yeah, it's not just a random collection of spooky stuff. It all feels very intentional and well thought out.
It does.
Okay, speaking of spooky stuff, we have to talk about the creaking mob.
Oh, yeah. This is one of the highlights of the update, for sure.
It's not just a new mob, it's like a whole new gameplay element with its unique behaviors and the connection to the creaking heart.
Right. And the fact that illagers are terrified of them, that's just genius.
It really is. It changes the whole dynamic, you know? The big bad guys are now afraid of something else.
It makes you think differently about how you approach certain situations.
Totally. Like you could use a creaking to your advantage, clear out an outpost without even lifting a finger.
Oh, yeah, that would be awesome. Just watch the illagers run in fear.
And the whole creaking heart mechanic, that's just brilliant.
It's like a puppet master situation, but with a spooky mob.
Right. You can control where it goes, lure it into traps, use it as a distraction.
It adds a whole new layer of strategy to the game.
And the fact that it has all these other unique behaviors, like
Yeah.
ignoring hazards and being fire resistant, makes it even more versatile.
Definitely. Mojang really went all out with this one.
It's clear they put a lot of thought into it.
They did, and it really shows.
Okay, I know we could talk about the creaking all day, but we should probably touch on the technical updates as well.
Right. These are the changes that might not be as immediately noticeable to players, but they're super important for the long-term health of the game.
Exactly. They're the foundation for all the cool stuff that modders and map makers create.
The duration field for the trail particle system, that's a big one.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what modders do with that. The potential for cool visual effects is huge.
Imagine spells with custom particle trails or explosions with unique sparks. It's going to be awesome.
And then there's the schedule tick option for the simple block feature. That sounds like a pretty significant performance improvement.
Oh yeah, it's huge, especially for big mod packs. It helps prevent lag by making sure the game isn't constantly updating things that don't need to be updated.
Oh, that makes sense. It's like optimizing the game's engine.
Exactly. It's all about making things run as smoothly as possible.
And for the audiophiles out there, we've got the new format for biomusic.
Yeah, that's going to give creators a lot more control over the atmosphere of their worlds.
Imagine a jungle with tribal drums or a spooky cave with eerie whispers.
It's all about immersion, making the world feel truly alive.
I love it. And speaking of keeping things safe, we have to mention the new security feature for item blocks.
Oh, yeah, that's a really important addition. It prevents malicious code from being injected into custom items.
So it's like a layer of protection for players who are using mods.
Exactly. It helps keep everyone safe and ensures that the modding community stays a positive and creative space.
That's awesome. It's great to see Mojang taking these steps.
They're really committed to making Minecraft a safe and enjoyable experience for everyone.
Okay, let's move on to the command updates. This stuff is pretty advanced, but it's super interesting for those who like to delve into the technical side of the game.
Yeah, these updates give map makers and advanced players a lot more control over their worlds.
Like the changes to the attribute command, for example. Now you can reset the base value of an attribute for a specific entity.
Right, so you can tweak the strength or speed of a mob without having to mess with its code directly.
It's like having a fine-tuning knob for every creature in the game.
Exactly. And for the TNT lovers, there's the new explosion speed factor for TNT minecarts.
Oh yeah, that one's going to lead to some crazy contraptions, I could already tell.
People are going to get so creative with that. I can't wait to see what they come up with.
And for those who appreciate the little details, we've got the new shadow color style field for text components.
Yeah, now you can add colored shadows to your text, which is pretty cool.
It's a small change, but it makes a big difference visually.
It's all about adding those extra layers of polish and customization.
And of course, we can't forget about the bug fixes. They might not be as flashy as new features, but they're essential for a smooth gameplay experience.
Absolutely. Mojang did a great job squashing bugs in this snapshot.
It's clear they're dedicated to making sure the game runs as well as possible.
They're always listening to feedback and working to improve things.
It's one of the things that makes Minecraft so great.
It is. The constant evolution and the dedication to the community, it's what keeps people coming back.
All right, I think we've covered pretty much everything for this part of our deep dive.
Yeah, we've gone through a lot of information.
But there's still more to come, so be sure to join us for part 3, where we'll speculate on what these changes might mean for the future of Minecraft.
We'll be looking ahead, thinking about the possibilities. It's going to be fun.
All right, welcome back for the final part of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from those creepy new eye blossoms to the technical nitty-gritty, but now it's time to put on our prediction hats and think about what all this might mean for the future of Minecraft.
It does feel like we're getting a glimpse of where Mojang is headed with the game, It's not just about adding stuff, it's about laying the foundation for even bigger changes down the road.
Like setting the stage for the next evolution of Minecraft.
Exactly. And the fact that they took the winter drop experiment and turned it into a full feature, that's a big deal. It shows they're willing to try new things, get feedback, and then make those ideas a core part of the game.
It's a really cool approach. It makes players feel like they're part of the process.
Oh, absolutely. It creates a sense of community and collaboration that you don't see in a lot of other games.
And it's not just about the new features. The technical updates for modders are super important too.
Totally. Those are the changes that will really shape the future of Minecraft,
It's like they're giving the community the tools to create their own vision of the game.
And I think we're going to see some truly incredible stuff come out of that,
I'm sure of it. The creativity of the Minecraft community is boundless.
Absolutely. It's one of the things that makes this game so special.
So with Winter Drop now officially in the game, it makes you wonder what other experimental features might make the jump.
Right. What's next? It's exciting to think about.
Maybe more biomes with crazy new mechanics.
Oh, yeah. A biome where gravity is reversed or time flows differently.
Whoa, that would be wild.
Maybe even new mob types that behave in ways we haven't seen before.
A mob that can teleport or control other mobs.
Yeah. The possibilities are endless. It's all about pushing the boundaries of what's possible in Minecraft.
And that's what makes it so exciting. Every update brings something new and unexpected.
It's a game that never stops evolving, which is why it stayed so popular for so long.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Yeah, it is.
So there you have it, our deep dive into Snapshot 24W44A. We covered a lot, but there's still so much to discover.
Absolutely. Get out there, explore the Pale Garden, try out the new features, and let your creativity run wild.
The future of Minecraft is bright, and it's all thanks to the passionate community that keeps this game thriving.
Here's to many more updates, discoveries, and adventures in the world of Minecraft.
Thanks for joining us.